Welcome to the Healthspan Collective, the podcast where science and wellness converge. I'm Nicole Doran, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we dive into the world of regenerative medicine, integrative health, and the latest science and trends shaping how we live healthier for longer. Grace Terrell is a holistic nutritionist who specializes in gut and hormone health. She's helped hundreds of women get to the root cause of their health issues through a holistic approach that blends nutrition, mindset, and lifestyle. Grace is passionate about helping women truly heal, not just manage symptoms, so they can feel energized, empowered, and at home in their bodies again. Grace Terrell, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited. I feel like the first time we met, I was like the biggest fangirl. Do you remember when we met at Eudaimonia?
Yeah, I remember.
I like ran up to you.
I was like, oh my God, hi.
Like you would think like you are, I don't know, like freaking Jennifer Aniston or something.
No.
I just have followed you for so long, and genuinely, like if you go back in our messages, like I have reposted your reels to my stories for years and sent your content to friends. I literally just sent it to a friend the other day who was having issues with bloating and her gut health, and I was like, this is a really good follow because you break things down in a simple way. And I want to get into, to start, how did you, was it your personal health journey that even got you into holistic nutrition?
Yes and no. So growing up, my dad is a chiropractor.
Okay.
So I grew up like around a lot of holistic medicine, holistic remedies. And my grandfather was also a chiropractor, but he did radionics. Have you ever heard of radionics?
No. What is that?
So it's kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it very well because growing up I thought it was completely normal. It's kind of like Reiki, but
Cool.
They have a machine that they use with the Reiki.
Okay.
And so I grew up basically with my grandfather like healing me from Pennsylvania, which sounds like so crazy and ridiculous.
I love it though.
I know. And I didn't realize, like it wasn't until I was in my like early 20s that I was like, wait a second, that's actually very strange. So basically, the whole idea behind radionics is that your body has a frequency, like an energy frequency.
Right.
And that all illness and injury starts in the energetic body. And kind of to heal it, you just have to fine tune that energetic body.
Okay.
And you can do that through like Reiki or using somebody that has the same energy as you. And while I don't like necessarily believe all of that now, it kind of shaped my perspective on healing. Like the body can heal itself if you give it what it needs.
Yeah.
And so in my like early 20s when I started to feel really sick, I actually never went to any doctors.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of people that have health issues or kind of like go to functional medicine doctors, they've been through like regular practitioners, holistic practitioners, nutritionists, dietitians, the whole thing. And I actually didn't go to any. I just asked my dad what I should do.
Love that.
And so it kind of started, I would say, the end of high school, early college.
Okay.
And I was a vegan for like 5-6 years.
Like starting in high school?
Yeah, starting in high school.
Oh, okay.
And I think I wanted to get into veganism because my sister was a vegan.
Oh, okay.
And I saw how well it worked for her. And so I became a vegan and I felt really great for the first like 3 to 4 years. Like I was like, everything's fantastic. I have so much energy. My skin's clear. My hair's long. And then around like year 4 or 5, I started to get really bad stomach issues.
Okay.
And it was like everything that I ate would make me super bloated.
Okay.
And I had no energy. I felt like absolute trash. And I was like, why is this happening to me if my diet is perfect? Like,
And it's like stayed the same.
yeah.
And I assume you were the kind of vegan that was like eating whole foods, making sure you're getting like your protein from plant sources. Like you weren't eating like Oreos, right?
No, yeah. I was a super healthy vegan. And
Yeah.
at that time, like everything that I was reading, all the studies that I was reading, everyone that I was following online that was vegan, like was telling me that this was the healthiest diet for every single person.
Right.
And this was when I didn't have so much knowledge on nutrition.
Okay.
So I was kind of just like following what I was reading.
Right.
And when I started feeling sick, it was like my whole paradigm of health completely shattered.
Okay.
Because I was like, why is this not working for me? Like I
Right.
thought my body was broken. And then I started like just studying a lot. This was like around COVID time. And we couldn't like work or do anything. So I was like taking these crazy long walks like around this lake when I lived in LA and listening to Dr. Mark Hyman and all these like health podcasts. And I was like trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I was learning about like SIBO and IBS and Candida and all these gut health issues. Just trying to like heal myself because I was like, I'm not going to any doctors. Not that that's good advice, but that was just kind of like what I grew up with.
Yeah, I get that.
And so once I started like learning about it, I was like, I should just get certified in this because I want to like learn more.
Yeah.
So then I started a certification, and during that time I was trying like the Candida cleanse. I did low FODMAP, and I was still vegan. So like you can imagine the vegan diet plus the Candida diet.
Yeah. What were you eating? Like celery?
Literally nothing.
Yeah. And
so I was feeling worse.
Yeah.
And then I started like researching more and more. And I was like, maybe I should try to eat some meat because I'm like literally starving and my stomach still hurts no matter what I eat. So then I started incorporating meat again, and I started feeling amazing. And
immediately.
You
didn't have any problem digesting it at first?
Zero.
Wow.
And I had a friend at the time who was vegan, and she was telling me like, yeah, the first time I ate meat again, like I was throwing up. I got super, super sick.
Yeah.
And so I was so afraid that was going to happen to me.
Yeah. And
then I also had all of this guilt from like just the vegan paradigm of, you know, you need to like animals or don't abuse animals basically.
Yeah.
And so I felt like very guilty for that as well.
Yeah.
But once I ate the meat and I felt so good, I was like, I have to put myself first. Like this is what my body's asking for right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, from there I started eating more meat and learning about like bioindividuality.
Yeah.
And how everyone's so different, and what works for somebody might not work for the next person. And like actually learned about like deep nutrition and protein and amino acids and all these things that are so important, and how those play a role in digestion and how we absorb certain nutrients from certain foods and others aren't as bioavailable. And from there, I just started getting better, and then I got certified officially and started taking clients, and here we are.
Did you start with IIN, like certification-wise?
Yeah.
You did? I did IIN too. Same thing, like
one.
As I was trying to heal myself, that was like my entry into this world, like this industry, I should say.
I feel like that's so many people's stories. Like a lot of nutritionists or people like in the functional medicine world, we start from like pain.
Yeah.
And then that kind of makes us like learn so much about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't, like you don't really care about your health until you have an issue. And then you start really diving into it. And then a lot of us want to help other people. So
yeah, I had a very similar journey, and I can really resonate with a lot of that. So were you working like a corporate job like in your early 20s, and then you transitioned into nutrition?
Kind of. I was, so after college I moved to LA.
Okay.
And I was
You're from Florida, right?
I'm from Virginia.
Oh,
originally.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Northern Virginia in like a tiny town called Haymarket.
Okay.
And then after college, I moved to Los Angeles.
Got it.
And I worked for a dance production company because I grew up a competitive dancer.
Oh, okay.
And so I did that for like 4 years. And then during COVID, I moved to Miami. And
Got
then,
it.
Yeah. During that, like it was the last couple years where I was starting to get certified. And then
Got it.
I moved here like right after COVID.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you were in Mexico for a little while, right?
This was like last year. I've always wanted to like go and travel for a year, but the apartment that I was living in before I left, the ceiling, the classic Florida, the ceiling caved in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because there was like mold and stuff on the roof. And so it started like cracking. And so I had to move out. And I was like, I'm just going to go. I went and lived in Guatemala and Mexico for a year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like that experience, or were you?
It was so fun. And I feel like before I left, I started dealing with like a lot of weird acne and random things, possibly because of the mold that was in my apartment.
I was going to say, was the mold affecting you at all?
I didn't really think of it at the time, but in hindsight, I think it probably was. And the apartment that I lived in before that also had a ton of mold. And so I think that was part of it. But then when I went to go travel, like all of my acne went away and like all of my symptoms.
So interesting.
And I was like, I wonder why.
So you think it was fully the mold? Like, do you think it was like stress or anything like that as well?
I think it was also stress.
Okay.
I think it was stress, possibly the mold. And then also I'm like still learning about like skincare and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But I think my skin type just doesn't work well with the humidity.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to learn how like different makeup and different products affect my skin in like the humid climate. So
yeah. And skin is so personal. Like I've seen you post a couple times about like your skincare routine and you're like, but this is very specific to me, which I think like more people need to give that disclaimer because it's like, I think so many people just see the routine that their favorite influencer follows and they buy it for themselves, thinking like they'll just end up looking the same way as another girl, and that's just like not necessarily the case. Like your skincare routine might do a completely different thing for me, you know?
Yeah, it's like everyone has a completely different skin type, just like diet. Like you should never copy someone's diet because they have a completely different metabolism, body composition, health issues. Like there's no one size fits all, and we always want to make it easy, right? Like I wish you could just carbon copy someone else's diet and skincare routine, but it doesn't work like that.
I know, it really is such an individual and intuitive process to figure out like what individually works for you.
Yeah.
But something that I always really resonated with about your story and like what you talk about is, so I was very plant-based for a while too. I wasn't even fully vegan. I would still like eat some fish here and there. But same thing, it was working for me for a couple of years. And then I was living in New York and I started having like IBS symptoms. I would be so bloated. I would get this really strong pain in my like lower left abdomen and was really fatigued. I had had PCOS for a few years already anyway. So that always kind of played a role with my fatigue and brain fog. Like I knew my hormones were, it's all related, right? Like the gut health probably started when the PCOS did. But something that like I feel like I would, same thing, listen to a lot of podcasts, read a ton of books, and everything was always like fiber, fiber, fiber. More fiber you can get in your diet, the better, because all this fiber like cleans you out and it's a natural detoxifier. And I think you were the first person I saw talking about the fact that like you don't suggest for your clients that they just like load up on as many cruciferous vegetables as possible. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So fiber obviously is amazing for you, but if you have poor gut health, it's going to make your symptoms 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And I understand why the advice is like, you know, more fiber is better because you want to feed those beneficial bacteria in your gut. But if you have something like SIBO, for example, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, if you have a lot of fiber and you don't have good motility of your gut, so things are just kind of like moving slower than they should be, those fibers are going to get in your intestines and the bacteria are going to eat them and ferment, which causes a lot of gas, bloating, and indigestion.
Okay.
So we want to avoid those symptoms. If we're already dealing with them, you don't want to make it worse.
Right.
So in that case, I typically recommend lowering the fiber and going for things like sweet potato, lower fiber content, but still getting your fiber in, like things like beans, kale, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower rice, like all those things that are those health foods that are really popular. Those are going to make...
That was literally my full diet.
Yes,
like
exactly.
A few years ago, yeah.
Which is like, it's healthy. People think that, you know, people are right to say that it's healthy because it is good for you.
Right.
But you don't want to be even more bloated and even more constipated and even more in pain than you need to be.
Right.
So you want to get your gut health to a better place and then you can add those things in slowly.
Okay. So walk me back. So for someone like ourselves, say somebody was vegan for the past few years, they've seen so much, you know, content out there now about the importance of eating meat. They feel like they're dealing with gut issues, but they don't have like necessarily a diagnosis. What do you think is a good first step for people to take?
I think the first step should always be start reading ingredient labels because there are so many things that are marketed as health foods that aren't really health foods. Okay. For example, like the sugar-free ice creams like Halo Top, the light and fit yogurts, the low-fat desserts, like high-fiber tortillas, like all of these things have so many ingredients that can really like hurt your stomach.
Right.
Like artificial sweeteners like erythritol, sucralose, even things like those energy drinks like the Alani News or the Celsius or protein bars, protein shakes, like all those things, not that they're like necessarily the worst things that you can eat, but they have a lot of ingredients in them that are going to disrupt your gut microbiome.
Okay.
So the first thing I would say is start reading your labels. And if you see those ingredients, just cut it out. Lean more towards whole foods.
Right.
And then the second thing is definitely nervous system regulation, which I know is like such a buzzword right now. So I hate even saying it because I feel like it's so overdone.
I think it's so important though.
It's really, really important because everything in your body goes on a rhythm of your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us are constantly in fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And it's not woo-woo. It's like literally science on how that regulates our hormones, our sleep, our mood, and our digestion. So doing things that help you just like ground yourself and relax. And it's easier said than done, and it's going to be different for everyone what works.
Right.
But it's so important.
Because it's like, obviously like meditating would be great for everybody. But if you are really struggling with meditating, like even like you said, going for a long walk, and, you know, just like listening to the birds sometimes, I think like it's like those stupid simple things, but they can be like really regulating for your system.
Yeah, it really is.
I noticed it was funny yesterday, I had a lot on my schedule and I woke up an hour earlier than usual. I got up at like 5 a.m. and I was so bloated all day. And that was the only thing I could point to that I did differently. I mean, I had just come off of like a trip, but I was feeling really good the day before. But I was like reading about it. I'm like, could waking up early make me bloated? And I think it's because it kind of disrupted my nervous system. I didn't get enough, or I just threw my circadian rhythm off, which then throws your nervous system off. And like, it really affected my gut.
Exactly. Like we don't realize how much this stuff affects us.
Yeah.
Like every time if I have an early flight and I'm like, I have to get up at like 5 a.m., I know I'm going to be nauseous.
Yes.
Like I always get nauseous when I wake up early.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always it's been worse lately. I've been like digging into this like histamine issue I've been having, but that's a story for another day. Like that I've been dealing with for the past year. But honestly, since I was a teenager, same thing. Like if I had to get up early for a flight, I knew that I would have like a runny nose in the morning. Yeah. Until I was able to like take a nap and like regulate again.
Classic histamine.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so. And just like talking about gut health issues, I know leaky gut is a big like buzz term right now too, but I think there's some misunderstanding as to like exactly what it is. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember the first time I posted about leaky gut was like 4 years ago when I like just started my Instagram. Yeah. And I remember so vividly this guy that I went to college with who is a doctor and he was like in medical school. And he commented on my video and he was like, this isn't real. Like, this is bullshit. I don't know if I can curse on here.
Yeah.
He was like, this is fake. Like, don't talk about this pseudoscience stuff. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then now, like 5 years later, it's completely accepted by the medical community. Yeah. So basically, leaky gut, or it's called intestinal permeability. Right. And it's basically when the lining of your gut, so the lining of your gut is just one cell thick. Okay. And it's supposed to act like think of it like a coffee filter. It's supposed to like let the good things through but keep the bad things out. Right. And when you have a leaky gut due to like stress, medication, poor diet, pesticides, alcohol, like toxins in the environment, that coffee filter becomes broken. Okay. And so things like more toxins, particles from your food will pass through into your immune system, and that activates your immune system. So now your immune system thinks that these proteins from the food are like foreign invaders, and so it starts attacking them. Okay. And then you can develop food sensitivities, hormonal imbalances, autoimmune conditions, and just like low-grade inflammation throughout your body. Yeah. And it causes a ton of issues, and it's very, very common. But it exists on like a scale. Like you can have like low-grade leaky gut or like really bad leaky gut.
And what are some things you would do to heal leaky gut, like to build back up your stomach lining?
The first thing would be like you have to remove the things that are causing it in the first place. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are one of the main things. Like if you're just popping like Advil, all the time, that's not great. Alcohol, if you have a very processed diet, like a lot of sugar, refined carbohydrates, those sorts of things. And then try to like mitigate the toxins in your environment as much as you can, like pesticides, like candles, like cleaning products that have a ton of toxic ingredients in them. Obviously, like you can't avoid them altogether, but if you're dealing like with really bad symptoms, just try and strip those things back as much as you can.
We just had Illy on, who's a good friend of yours, right? And she's a really great resource at Healthily, and she has like a whole storefront of just like very low tox
clean
items.
Products.
So I send that to a lot of people. Like my mom a few months ago was like, okay, I'm ready to like start substituting out my stuff, and I was like, just whenever you need something new, go to
here.
Live Healthily, and like if it's on her site, you can know it's good.
She's so genius for that. Like I have so many friends that are just now having babies, and they're like, I want to switch all of my products, like where do I find everything? And I send them her website too. Yeah, it's just easy because it can get overwhelming, especially with the cleaning products and stuff, because it's like with food, it's pretty like, okay, if you pronounce it, like it's good. Look out for, maltodextrose and things like that. But with cleaning products and like body care products, like it's all kind of like it's gray.
It's gray. Like it's a little hard to know sometimes. So she makes it easy, which thanks, Silly.
We love.
We love. Exactly. You mentioned removing a lot of those trigger foods. Do you put clients on like an elimination diet when they first start removing those big things like gluten, dairy? Are you a fan of that?
It depends.
Okay.
If someone's really struggling and they have gluten and dairy in their diet, and I feel like it could potentially be a trigger for their symptoms, then I do suggest removing it for a little bit.
Okay.
But my approach is like, I want people after they work with me to be able to live a normal life and like add foods back in and eat whatever they want. Because I used to be gluten-free, dairy-free, meat-free, sugar-free, like, the whole
corn, soy.
Yes, corn,
peanuts,
soy, wheat, whatever. Because I did a food sensitivity test, and all of those foods were in the red for me because I had leaky gut. So my body was reacting to everything. But now I can eat everything.
Okay.
So that's what I want for people, is to get to a place where they can enjoy foods, however much they want and still be healthy. Can everybody get there? No. Like if you have a serious autoimmune condition, I think a lot of people are just better off going gluten-free.
Yeah.
Dairy-free also depends. I mean, there's some people that are just lactose intolerant and they should just stay away from dairy.
Right.
But it depends. I think if someone's really struggling, then removing it for a little bit is usually beneficial.
Okay. Yeah. I've been gluten-free for a little while now, and I'm always like saying to my husband, because he's always like, are you just going to be this way forever? And I'm like, hopefully no.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Like I'm like, if I can like get my gut repaired and everything in order, I should be able to like at the very least tolerate like a homemade sourdough and like really high quality items like that. Right.
And that makes a big difference too. Like the difference between Wonder Bread and like a homemade sourdough is insane, you know? But gluten is like, for example, if you have Hashimoto's, or really like any autoimmune condition, it's usually beneficial to cut out gluten.
Yeah, which I have hypothyroidism, which like I really think my mother-in-law has Hashimoto's, and like I really think had I not learned about it at a younger age and like gone gluten-free and like learned certain things regulating my nervous system, like I could see how it just escalates into Hashimoto's by a certain age, because your body's just like under attack all the time. How do you feel about celery juice?
I think it's great like, for hydration.
But you know what I mean? Like the whole like
medical medium.
Yeah, medical medium, like celery juice. I don't know if it's called a cleanse or whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, I've read some of his books before.
Have you?
When I was vegan, because
Yeah.
And I think some of what he says is valid. Like if you're really, really struggling again with something.
Yeah.
Any diet that you do that's removing 90% of things is probably going to make you feel better for an amount of time. For example, like
that's fair.
The carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Like if you take somebody with eczema, if you put them on the carnivore diet, they're probably going to feel better. If you put them on a celery juice cleanse, they're probably going to feel better.
Oh, okay.
What's happening is you're removing processed foods.
Yeah.
And you're giving your body, like if you're on the carnivore diet, you don't get those glucose spikes and dips.
Right.
If you're on a medical medium cleanse, you're not getting any protein or fat,
Mm-hmm.
which can be beneficial for an amount of time if your body needs to heal from something. I think the medical medium is full of shit for the most part. Like I used to be a fan of him, but then the shifting point for me was I actually listened to him on a podcast.
Okay.
Have you ever listened to him speak?
Mm-hmm.
And I was baffled.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what is this man talking about? He's saying that like spirits are telling him like how to heal people, and then
Mm-hmm.
completely discrediting like all medical professionals.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think like there's people that claim that he's healed them, and I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But for the average person, I just wouldn't go there.
I think that breaks it down in a really nice way. And that's funny that you say that, because I had a very similar experience. I like read one of his books and I was like, this is super interesting, blah, blah, blah. And then I listened to him and I was like,
Yeah. Kind of like shatters the whole.
Yeah. And it's like, I
thing.
love all that. Like I love like the woo-woo stuff and everything. But in my, like for like fun, like for myself and like for, like personal stuff, like not necessarily, like you said, it's like completely discrediting the whole medical community to take this instead. It's like, well, I don't know about all that.
Yeah. It's like literally how to build a cult. Yeah. Is medical medium.
He's got a great marketing team.
He really does.
They market his content very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually met a girl in Miami that is like a medical medium practitioner.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
Yeah. I met her and she totally didn't like me because I was just like
because you
not agreeing with anything she said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she had an autoimmune condition and felt so much better on his protocol. So like I'm happy for her, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think that actually makes a lot of sense, that like whether it's the carnivore diet or a celery juice cleanse, it's like by removing, like you said, all of these triggers that are likely inflaming the body and like causing all these symptoms. Yeah, all those things are going to calm down. So it makes sense, but it's likely only beneficial for a short period of time, not as a long-term solution.
Exactly. I always say like diets like that should be used as tools, not as like lifestyle diets.
Yeah.
Because they can be very powerful, but long-term damaging.
Like sometimes with smoothies, I feel like I don't digest them very well. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like a smoothie made with like frozen vegetables and fruits and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I have the same problem. I always get a stomach ache after smoothies.
Really?
I think one, because it's just like a bomb of like cold entering your stomach.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was. It was like something with Ayurveda. Like if you have a lot of cold foods, it like slows your digestion down or something.
Yes.
It's that. And then also we forget that digestion starts in the mouth.
Uh-huh.
So if you're just swallowing like a bunch of already like blended food, you don't get like the digestive enzymes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start chewing food, that's when your body starts producing the enzymes that actually break everything down.
Right.
And start the digestive process. If you just skip that, you're going to get a stomach ache.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I heard you say recently that the stomach doesn't have teeth.
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a good, like, I was like, I never thought of that, but it makes so much sense as to like, if you're not chewing properly and like doing the whole process of like cooking your meal, smelling it, salivating, chewing, like being relaxed while you're chewing and digesting. Like it makes sense. We're like shooting the smoothie to the back of our throat and like wondering why I have a stomach ache an hour later.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy when you think about all that stuff, because it really, like, we're designed so perfectly. Like we have five senses for a reason. And the modern world that we live in is like not conducive to that. Like we're working in offices, just like scarfing our food down quickly while we're like typing something or like on a phone call. And so we're not present with our bodies. And so we kind of skip over so many of those really important sensory inputs that start the digestive process. And that's why I think nervous system regulation, like being mindful while we're eating it's so important. And usually like if you do those things, you're 90% of the way there.
Yeah. Ugh, that's a big wake up call for me, because I'm like, I'm constantly eating lunch while I'm in a meeting and talking,
many
like
of us.
standing up and like doing all the wrong things. And it is like, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, when I do actually practice that, like mindful eating, sitting down, breathing, like maybe being outside, it does make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of supplements, like capsules?
It depends. That's like my answer to everything is it depends.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of too many supplements.
Okay.
Because I feel like most people that come to me, they come off of like a functional medicine practitioner that's prescribed them like 20 supplements. And one, that's like so expensive.
Yes.
Two, you're just peeing out most of it.
Yeah.
Because if your body's in a bad state, you're not going to absorb all that stuff anyway.
Right.
And a lot of the supplements like TikTok Shop, like Instagram, all of these things are so trash. Like they're just not good supplements.
Yeah.
And people just waste their money.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
It depends. I love, for example, like curcumin.
Okay.
I love that. I love glutathione.
Do you have brands that you like or trust?
I love Terra Health for those two.
Okay. That's sublingual?
Yeah,
Right?
liposomal.
Okay. Liposomal?
Form. Yeah, so your body can
Like
actually...
liquid, not a capsule?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those are great. One that I love and I put my clients on in the past is HCl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it helps like build up your stomach acid again, because I find a lot of people, especially if they were vegan for a long time, they don't have adequate stomach acid, and that's what's causing a lot of their issues. Because if you don't eat meat, your body needs a lot of stomach acid to break down proteins. And so if for years you're not eating protein, your body is going to adjust because it's really smart. And so it's not going to produce enough stomach acid.
Oh.
And over time, what happens is, one, that can cause like bacterial overgrowths.
Okay.
Two, you're more likely to get like a parasite or like H. pylori or something.
Okay.
And three, you're going to have a really hard time digesting food. If your stomach acid gets low enough, that causes like bloating, acid reflux, all those sorts of things. So a lot of people actually have low stomach acid, but they think they have too much. Like if you have a lot of acid reflux, people usually just take Tums,
Right.
which is an acid reducer.
Right.
So that actually ends up making the problem a lot worse. And usually they need to build that back up instead of like suppressing it more.
So if you had low stomach acid, it could potentially result with you like not fighting a parasite well?
Yeah. Because your stomach acid is like your first line of defense against things like that. Because if like, this is gross, but like if you have a worm, it shouldn't be able to survive if you have a lot of stomach acid.
Right.
But if you don't have enough of that, it's much more likely to, like, you're much more of a hospitable host.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was just talking about it with, I think it was Ella DeVar was on the podcast, and she was like one of many people that had brought up a parasite cleanse to me recently. And she was very, you guys have a lot in common. I don't know if you know her, but she's in Miami too. And she's like the gut brain longevity dietitian.
Okay.
A lot of similar concepts that you guys talk about. But she was like, I don't recommend a parasite cleanse unless somebody like can be diagnosed with parasites.
Yeah.
But it is common, I guess not necessarily common, but it is a thing that, you know, if you're having all these issues and you're not finding the answer, it could be a parasite. But I was kind of wondering, like, well, how do we get a parasite? Like, what makes you more open than another person? But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like if
you don't have the stomach acid.
Yeah. Because if you think about parasites, well, one, everyone has parasites. We are an ecosystem.
Right.
Like we are.
Of bacteria,
Yeah.
right?
We're mostly bacteria.
Right.
We have more bacteria than we have like human cells, which is like
crazy.
So crazy to think about. We all have parasites, but they're not all problematic. Like they kind of just, you know, they can live symbiotically with us. We like pass them. It's not a big deal. But if we have a lot of inflammation, if we are eating foods that parasites like, then you're a better host for the parasite, right?
Okay.
It wants to stay in your body.
And do they like sugar?
Yeah, they love sugar.
Okay.
So does Candida. Do you know what Candida is?
Yeah.
It's like a yeast that lives in our gut microbiome.
Right.
And it loves sugar.
Right. Like a Candida quote unquote cleanse is really like, it's like pretty low carb in general, right?
Yeah.
Like
super
no
low
sugar.
Carb, no sugar.
If anything, maybe just like a small amount of like sweet potatoes or rice or something. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting about the Parasite cleanse or a Parasite, and like why it would be like why someone would get one over another person.
Yeah.
And the sugar's another big thing, because I feel like that, especially with like the vegan community, like you get a lot of just sugar in foods.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you talking recently about sugar addiction and how real it is.
Yeah.
How would you approach a client who's coming to you and they're saying like, I have a problem with sugar? It sounds so silly, but like
it's a real problem.
Been there. Like I have been there.
Me too.
Yeah. Like where I'm like, I cannot think about anything else until I have a piece of chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not like,
that's
like, yeah, something's not right.
Yeah.
If that's the case. So how would you approach that?
Yeah. Well, it's literally dopamine. Like sugar is biologically addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to die, of course, if you can't withdraw from sugar and die.
Right.
So in that case, it's not like, a textbook addiction. But usually if I have a client that has a sugar problem, it depends on their history of like relationship with food on how aggressive I would be with it.
Okay.
Because of course, like you don't want to teeter on like, being unhealthy with that.
Right.
But usually I say you got to just cut it out cold turkey.
Okay.
Because like I don't want to compare it to an alcoholic, but it's a good metaphor. Like you can't just have a little bit of alcohol if you're an alcoholic.
Right.
Like you got to completely cut it out and kind of like reset the brain, reset the palate, and then at some point you can add it back in, of course.
So how long would you typically recommend going completely without?
Like a month.
A month.
I think is a good.
And then would you start introducing back like berries and like low sugar but still like some natural sugar foods, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, if someone's doing a sugar cleanse, I never tell them to cut out fruit altogether. Like, I think berries are totally fine. Most fruits are fine. I wouldn't like dates can be a little bit abused because they're really high in sugar and they're really yummy.
I love a date.
Yeah. But yeah, fruit is typically fine. Usually it's just like refined sugar and like healthy treats and stuff like that.
Yeah. Speaking of sugar, how do you feel about a continuous glucose monitor?
I used one actually for a couple weeks and it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think if you want more information on how your body responds to certain meals and like certain types of carbohydrates and stuff like that, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're like 100% accurate. I actually used 2 different ones because the first one fell off.
Okay.
And my body was responding very differently with the 2 glucose monitors.
Really?
Yeah.
What were the 2 that you tried? Do you remember the names?
The first one was Freestyle Libre.
Yeah, I've used that one.
And the second one was called like Linda or something like that.
Okay. I think that's like a newer one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that one was a little, I don't think it was very accurate. But the Freestyle Libre one I think was good because that's like the medical grade.
I was gonna say that's
for diabetics.
One, yeah, they use for diabetics. You used to have to get a prescription and it was like pretty expensive if you weren't a diabetic and stuff. I'm like happy to see it becoming a little bit more commonplace and available for non-diabetics, for people to like just be able to get a take on what your blood sugar is doing. A big wake-up call for me was having caffeine in the morning without any food, and just seeing like if I did have a snack, even if it was like a piece of fruit with nothing, like no nut butter, no like fat or protein with it, how much more of a spike in my blood sugar there would be, even just compared to eating the same food with some fat or protein with it.
Yeah, me too. I tested it and made a video about it of like having coffee on an empty stomach with my glucose monitor.
Yeah.
And it spiked like I was having like a sugary meal.
Really?
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting because we already know these things, but to actually see it in real time on your body is very motivating to, change your habits.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like, you drink coffee, you're fine with caffeine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm always relieved to hear that. Caffeine is like my one vice that I'm
Me too.
Tear it out of my cold dead hands.
Literally, I'm like, don't take away my coffee. I'll kill you.
And what about alcohol? Are you totally alcohol free?
I'm not.
Okay.
I actually didn't drink for like 7 years when I was having like a lot of my health issues because
impressive.
I was responding so poorly to it. Like I would have one margarita and the next day I was like dead on the floor.
Really?
And so I was like, I'm not drinking anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I think just because I had so much inflammation
Okay.
in my body that adding alcohol in, obviously it's not good for you, was just like spilling me like over the top.
Okay.
I use this metaphor a lot with my clients. Like everyone has an inflammation bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have like, you know, emotional stress, then physical stress, you're eating a poor diet, now you're drinking alcohol, now like you have pizza or something, like that's going to spill you over the edge, and then you're going to start getting symptomatic. And so you have to bring that bucket down in order to have more resilience, in order to be able to handle things. Like, for example, adding gluten back in.
Right.
For most people, if they're really, really sensitive, they have to bring the inflammation all the way down so that they can then tolerate a little bit again. And that's kind of how you like build the resilience up while still keeping the inflammation lower. So in that case, like there are certain things that you're going to have to give up in order to like, you know, add things back in so that you can build that resilience back up again. But yeah, I didn't drink for a really long time. And then I started like, you know, having some here and there once I felt better. I'll have like 2 drinks a month or something if I'm like out to dinner. But yeah, I don't drink a lot at all.
Yeah, that's how I am nowadays. It's like 1 to 2 drinks a week, every other week, something like that. And I do notice a big difference. Like we were in Charleston this past weekend, my husband and I, and he's like a big foodie, and we do love wine. But I noticed I think I had like 2.5 glasses, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, whoa, hungover. I really feel this. Yeah, which is like sad.
I know. It really is depressing. Wine has always killed me.
Really?
Like I get the worst headaches with wine. Probably also because you're histamine, if you have histamine issues.
Yes.
Wine is super, super high in histamines.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense that it would bother me that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a whole like mast cell activation syndrome journey. It was like I think I had COVID, and it just kind of spurred. It was around my wedding, so I just took a bunch of like Claritin and Dayquil and antibiotics, all the stuff I would never typically take.
Yeah.
Because I just like had to feel better immediately. Like it was an emergency. I had to get married.
It's your wedding.
And then I was on my honeymoon, so I just kind of kept taking it, and I think it like really tore down my microbiome, like just really imbalanced things. And after that, I've had this like kind of crazy histamine thing where like I wake up, I sneeze 10 times every morning. After the shower. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like runny nose, literally like my poor husband. Like he's always sleeping. He's like, bless you.
It's his alarm clock. You sneezing.
But yeah, it's been really interesting. I'm about to like try a couple new things, so I'm interested to see if those will work. But it's definitely gut imbalance. Like multiple functional practitioners have been like, it's stemming from the gut, and sugar is such a trigger. Like I'm now at a point where foods, in the beginning, it was like anything I ate, just like immediate sneezing, and it was just like sitting at the top of my stomach, like not being digested. I'm not there anymore, thankfully. But now it's like if I have a sip of a sugary cocktail, like 5 minutes later I'll start to sneeze. Like it's like things that like
crazy,
like that, like immediate blood sugar release or cortisol release. If I do like a HIIT workout, I'm like really like
runny nose
after. Yeah.
Do you get that with like fermented foods?
I don't. And that's the thing, like, because everyone was like, everything I was reading, like I tried a low histamine diet, and like it didn't really seem to make that big of a difference. It was more the sugar. Yeah. That was the trigger. I mean, I'm not eating fermented foods just because like I know if there's an overgrowth of some kind, like that's probably just not going to help me right now. But yeah, it's been so interesting.
Have you done a GI map?
Yeah.
Was anything on there?
Yes, a ton.
A lot?
Yes. Like there's some stuff that's like so overgrown, some stuff that there's like I have 0 akkermansia. And what's interesting is, so I did one last May. I had 0 akkermansia. So I took it for a few months, and my functional practitioner was like, okay, that's probably like enough. You don't want to take it for too long. Right. And then when we reran it, I still had 0. And so she was like, okay, so something is still like
fighting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
And it like threw off my hormones. It threw off my thyroid.
Throws off everything when your gut health's out of balance.
Yeah.
Because so many of your hormones are, you know, like regulated by your gut health and your liver as well. If your gut is burdened, your liver is burdened. Yes. And so your hormones start recirculating if they're not getting detoxified through your liver.
Yes.
And then you end up a mess.
Yes. That's me lately. Like I'm like, I have high liver enzymes. Like once again, I have one drink. Like I eat so clean, but anyway, we're working on it. That's tough. That's my whole life story right now. But
you're on the journey.
Yeah. What else? Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know about gut health and just like everything you teach on a day-to-day?
I think we need to bring it back down to simplicity.
Yeah.
Because these topics can get so complicated on the internet. And then I think people just get so overwhelmed and they don't want to do any of it.
Yeah.
And I've been there too. And I'm sure you have as well. It's like you're kind of just like, I don't know what to do. Like I've tried everything and nothing works. So like now I'm just like stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's really discouraging. And then people end up just like never getting better.
Yeah.
And I think like what really works is eating whole foods, like connecting back to nature, honestly, because I feel like so much of like the world is just so unnatural and we can't get away from that, right? Like we work under synthetic lights, like we're on our phones all day. Like that's just the world we live in. But I think if we all just like connected back to nature, like spent more time outside in the sun, swimming in the ocean, walking in the woods, like that one reconnects you to your environment, but two, like you're also absorbing like the bacteria and all those things from the environment. And I think if we look at our body as an ecosystem that like wants to live symbiotically with the world and the food that we eat, we'd all be so much healthier. So just like eating more natural foods, living closer to the earth, and learning how to regulate your nervous system, as corny as that sounds, it's so important. And it's the center of literally everything. And like going back to like what I was saying earlier about my grandfather and the work that he did.
Yeah.
Like as woo-woo as that sounds, like the radionics and like how your body is an energy field, like it really is. And
no, it really is.
Yeah. And we can regulate our own bodies and like the stuck energy in your gut, like the tension, the stress, the people pleasing, all of that really affects your body as a whole because everything works together.
Yeah.
And I think if we just start thinking of the body as a whole and getting back to nature and like how we're supposed to live, we'd all be so much healthier. And it really doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a ton of extra stuff.
Yeah. I love that so much. Are there any like books or resources besides your Instagram is genuinely such a great resource. You also used to have a podcast, didn't you?
I did. I had like 5 episodes and then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's hard. So props to you for doing it.
Thank you. I listened to all 5 episodes. Like I said, I'm like your super fan. So whenever you want to bring it back, I'll be there to listen. But are there any other resources that you like to point people to that break it down in a simple way?
Deep Nutrition is a really good book.
Okay.
It's by Catherine, I forget her last name.
Okay.
But Deep Nutrition.
Deep Nutrition, okay.
Good Energy. Have you read that one?
I haven't. That's by Callie and Casey Means, right? Okay.
It's really, really good.
Okay. I'm a people pleaser, so that one I'm sure will hit home for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good one. It's about just like mitochondrial health and everything. And her story is really incredible, how she was like a doctor and then broke out of that system after her mom had cancer. And she was like, the siloed perspective of medicine and how everything is like so separate, which for a lot of things is completely needed. I'm not saying it's not needed, but for a lot of people, we need to look at things as how they're connected. And I think that'll bring us back to health. And that's what that book is about. And then there's this other book, I forget the author, but it's called Root Cause.
Oh.
And it's about Hashimoto's.
Okay.
And that book is really interesting. It's not just about Hashimoto's, but it's about like autoimmune conditions and how like everything with gut health is connected to that.
Okay.
So that's a really good one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Adding all of these to my list. Good Energy was at like the top of my list anyway. So, okay, we'll definitely be reading that. And where can people find you?
Instagram, TikTok, Graceful Wellness.
Okay.
And then all the links to everything else is in my bio on there.
And you said you're starting to take clients again, right?
Yeah. A couple here and there.
Couple here and there. Selective clients. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. This was so fun.
Thanks for having me.
This podcast was brought to you by Pureform, a comprehensive wellness center in Boca Raton, Florida. The website is pureformhealth.com, or you can find us on Instagram at pureformhealth. Feel free to message us with any questions, and note that you can connect with our providers for consultations over Zoom, from everything from stem cell therapy to hormone replacement therapy and peptide therapy. That's it for this episode of the Healthspan Collective. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and send it to a friend. We'd also love to connect with you on Instagram. Follow the podcast at Healthspan Collective and me at Nicole J. Doran, and leave us a comment on our latest post letting us know what you'd like us to cover next.